The construction committee has a nominee of the Controller and Auditor General of India, which should not have been the case. So in a way, C&AG cannot audit the total expenditure of the trust. So they neither have a CAG audit nor any audit reports displayed at the portal.
No, but Murmu, you raised a very valid point in your letter. You said that when NGOs can be asked about their foreign contribution regulations, then why not Ram Temple Trust? Now that is the cornerstone on which I'm sure the government will run away from these questions.
Yeah. In fact, not only that, the many NGOs are questioned and they're being harassed. Mr. Harsh Mandar, human rights activist, his NGO was harassed. And now, in the parliament right now, there is a bill amending the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act to make it much more stringent, and they can confiscate the properties of NGOs.
What is your main demand? The letter which you have written, what is your main demand? That there should be an inquiry under the Judicial Oversight? Or what does it talk about? What is your basic demand through this letter?
I appealed to the President of India to order an investigation under judicial oversight. That's very, very important.
And she has the powers. And the President has the powers to do that.
President can. President has the authority. And after all, this trust has come into existence because of a Supreme Court judgment. The President can consult the Supreme Court. Now look at, how accountability in the NDA and RSS and all that, they don't seem to believe in accountability and transparency, public accountability. RSS, for example. RSS gets Guru Dakshinas and they are not registered. They don't pay any tax. And you cannot ask them for information under Right to Information Act. RSS has got huge offices, huge establishment. RSS website says they've got a political angle. And they've got a political clout, as everybody knows, they cannot deny that. But today, you don't find anything about RSS accounts, RSS expenditure, how much of donations, how much of foreign donations. Now, PM Care Fund. PM Care Fund is headed by the Prime Minister himself. The Finance Minister is a member of that. PM Care Fund Secretariat is Prime Minister's office. And they have exempted themselves from Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. But today, there is, I can't find the audit reports of PM Care Fund, recent ones on the portal, and they appointed their own auditor. CAG audit is not there at all, whereas TTD has offered itself and CAG audits TTD funds.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Alongside the issue of the student movement and how the pellet guns were fired against the students, there is another issue of the Ram Temple Chanda Chori, which is continuously being raised in Parliament. The other day, about 3 days ago, we saw Pappu Yadav, the independent Lok Sabha MP, enacting as a skit, in fact, and he was playing the role of a pujari who sat with a donation box. Along with him, the other India Alliance leaders came and put money inside the donation box, and then Pappu Yadav seems to be walking away with that donation box in a way depicting how the Ram Temple Chanda Chori or the theft happened. And after which there was a police complaint, there were FIRs lodged in Varanasi, in Delhi. But nobody has the answers as to why and how this temple chori or the Ram Temple theft issue the government is trying to tackle with. In the meanwhile, a former secretary to the government of India, Mr. EAS Sarma, has written a letter to the President of India, Draupadi Murmu, and I'd like to show you that letter. If you're there backstage, Josh, and if we can have the contents of that letter. He said that he's addressed a letter to Draupadi Murmu, the President of India, that Shri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra is a trust constituted under Section 6 of the Acquisition of Certain Area at Ayodhya Act 1993 in accordance with the judgment delivered in 2019 by the Honorable Supreme Court. There are 15 members of the trust, out of whom 12 are nominated by the union government. The Union Ministry of Home Affairs is directly represented on the trust through one of its senior officers. Similarly, the UP government is also represented on its board. In other words, both the union government and the UP government are directly involved in conducting the trust's affairs and are therefore accountable in that respect to the parliament and public at large. Over the last 6 years, this is what Mr. EAS Sarma has written, that over the last 6 years, the trust has attracted donations from devotees both in India and overseas in cash and kind, and in the normal course. For the sake of transparency, the trust ought to have subjected its accounts to annual statutory audits and displayed the audit reports in the public domain. For reasons best known to it, it has not done so. And then Mr. EAS Sarma has cited the news reports which came out in Newsdrum and various other websites, saying that as early as in November 2020, a private audit firm examining the trust's accounts pointed out systemic gaps in its accounts. Evidently, the trust board chose to ignore that warning. It is not clear whether the statutory auditors who audited the SRJTK, that is the Sri Ram Janmabhoomi Temple Trust, subsequently have pointed out such shortcomings, and whether the trust board continued to ignore their reports. Then he again cited another report of the Millennium Post saying that there are allegations of embezzlement of hundreds of crores of rupees of cash, jewelry, including gold, silver, diamond-studded ornaments donated by people. A group of donors alleged that they had offered 200 kg of silver bricks to the trust, but the latter did not give them receipt. And he has cited a number of other reports as well. He said that considering that both the union government and the state government have a conflict of interest, any investigation by an official team subordinate to them would not elicit public trust. Now, these are some very important points raised by Mr. EAS Sarma. Sri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra has also registered itself under the Foreign Contributions Regulation Act with the registration number 231661997 for receiving donations from foreign sources. As of now, the FCRA registration is valid from 18/10/2023 to 17/10/28. Evidently, the trust has received donations from foreign sources, and under the FCRA, it should account for those donations and the manner in which they have been used. FCRA registered NGOs are required to submit annual form FC4 and quarterly reports to the MHA on foreign contributions. To the best of my knowledge, MHA's FCRA division has neither monitored the Ram Temple Trust receiving donations nor reviewed the way in which those donations are utilized. FCRA division has till date not acted on the allegations of embezzlement appearing in the public domain. In other words, MHA's involvement in the way Ram Temple Trust conducts its affairs is twofold: one through its nominee member of the trust, and the second through its FCRA division monitoring foreign donations. So these are some very important points. I'm not reading out the whole letter, but we'll try and show the letter to you in between. But the allegations of embezzlement, Home Ministry and the Union government not asking questions, where does it leave us as far as the Ram Temple theft issue is concerned? Joining me this evening is Mr. EAS Sarma, who's former Secretary to the Government of India, a decorated officer. Thank you so much, Mr. Sarma, for joining. And your letter is quite an extensive one, which you have written to the President. Why do you think that the government has just not bothered to reply to letters like these? And you have some very pinpointed questions.
This Ayodhya Trust is a statutory trust. It's appointed at the instance of the Supreme Court. Now, there are two things in that. One is the trust as such. The second thing is a construction committee headed by Mr. Nripendra Mishra, former Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister. Now, the donations received by the trust, according to reports, ranges around 3,000, 4,000 crores, apart from jewelry, silver, gold, and all that. Many people from Andhra Pradesh, where I live, many small donors have given donations. Now, there are allegations of theft of donations, then theft of articles, and also land deals, which is very disturbing. Land deals associated with the trust, which are questionable. Then as far as the construction committee is concerned, the allegations that the original cost of the project went up from 800 crores to about 2,000 crores. And the allegations about substandard material being used. These are all very serious matters. And all said and done, there's a statutory body. So one expects transparency, accountability, and all that. But I try to look at the portal of the trust. I don't find any audit reports, any annual reports, details are not available. 2020 itself, some auditors pointed out there are systemic problems, but then the trust ignored their reports, obviously. Very interestingly, the construction committee has a nominee of the Controller and Auditor General of India, which should not have been the case. So in a way, C&AG cannot audit the total expenditure of the trust. So they neither have a CAG audit nor any audit reports displayed at the portal. Something very, very serious. Now, as I mentioned in my letter, there are foreign donations. And there is a Foreign Contribution Regulation Act registration. So under that, they're supposed to send quarterly and half-yearly annual reports. Obviously, there is no talk about that. Home Ministry has not really...
No, but you raised a very valid point in your letter. You said that when NGOs can be asked about their foreign contribution regulations, then why not Ram Temple Trust? Now, that is the cornerstone on which I'm sure the government will run away from these questions.
Yeah. In fact, not only that, the many NGOs are questioned and they're being harassed. Mr. Harsh Mandar, human rights activist, his NGO was harassed. And now, in the parliament right now, there is a bill amending the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act to make it much more stringent, and they can confiscate the properties of NGOs on technical issues. So this is the situation which calls for an inquiry. Now look at the structure, the composition of the trust. Out of 15 members, 12 were appointed by the Prime Minister's office, in the government, NDA government. And Ministry of Home Affairs is represented by an additional secretary level officer. Mr. Ganesh Kumar himself was representing the Ministry of Home Affairs on the trust. So in a way, and the UP government is also represented. UP government is represented, Ministry of Home Affairs is represented, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, Ministry of Home Affairs is supposed to monitor in many, many ways. And after all, Mr. Nipendra Mishra was Principal Secretary to Prime Minister. He went and headed the construction committee. So there is no question, in my view, any investigation conducted by either the UP government or the central government on itself does not elicit public trust. It has to be under judicial purview, because today, even CBI and Enforcement Directorate, the credibility is not very high. So from that point of view, it is absolutely necessary for a judicial oversight on the investigation. And it has to be.
So what is your main demand? The letter which you have written, what is your main demand? That there should be an inquiry under the judicial oversight? Or what does it talk about? What is your basic demand through this letter?
I appealed to the President of India to order an investigation under judicial oversight. That's very, very important.
And she has the powers. And the President has the powers to do that.
President can. President has the authority. And after all, this trust has come into existence because of a Supreme Court judgment. The President can consult the Supreme Court on this. And I personally feel for public trust, it's very important to elicit public trust. Such a thing is necessary. Now I want to compare. Now look at Andhra Pradesh, we got the Tirupati Devasthanam, Tirupati establishment. So I was looking at it. Tirupati Devasthanam is 100 years old, 1932, 100 years old. And Tirupati Devasthanam also has got a board. And its annual expenditure, annual plan is more than 5,000 crores. And I was looking at July, the just completed month of July, the donations received by TTD were of the order of 140 crores. And you find all the audit reports, all the annual reports of TTD available on the portal. I could access them easily. And this is something to do with accountability. TTD is much bigger. It's one of the biggest in the world, actually. And they have got a system. And they got an executive officer who is accountable. And the public scrutiny, public accountability, transparency, all these things are satisfied. I'm surprised that Ayodhya Ram Temple Trust, which receives donations of a smaller scale. But still, since they're all public donations, the transparency and accountability are extremely important. Now, I think, when the parliament, there is a lot of thing on this Chanda Chori and all that. It's also a symbolic thing in my view. It's symbolic because the parliament is talking about public accountability in a general way. When they show this Chanda Chori thing in a dramatic way, I think that is the message that should go to the NDA government. Now look at how accountability in the NDA and RSS and all that, they don't seem to believe in accountability and transparency, public accountability. RSS, for example, RSS gets Guru Dakshinas and they are not registered. They don't pay any tax. And you cannot ask them for information under Right to Information Act. RSS has got huge offices, huge establishment. RSS website says they've got a political angle and they've got a political clout, as everybody knows. They cannot deny that. But today, you don't find anything about RSS accounts, RSS expenditure, how much of donations, how much of foreign donations RSS receives. And this is the kind of accountability. Now, second thing, PM Care Fund. PM Care Fund is headed by the Prime Minister himself. The Finance Minister is a member of that. PM Care Fund Secretariat is Prime Minister's office. And they have exempted themselves from Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. But today, there is, I can't find the audit reports of PM Care Fund, recent ones on the portal, and they appointed their own auditor. CAG audit is not there at all, whereas TTD has offered itself and CAG audits TTD funds. Here, RSS, the PM Care Fund, there is no CAG audit at all. And nobody knows what's happening there, how much donations, how much of foreign donations. And are those donations from sources which are valid, credible, or are they suspect creators? We don't know, donors. So there is absolutely none. Similarly, when you talk of accountability, you mentioned Cockroach Janata Party. Now here, after all, who caused the mess, neat mess? It is the NDA government. Whatever it is, it's a mess. And it has ruined the careers of many, many young people. And people have committed suicides. So naturally, it's legitimate on the part of the youth of India to question that. And Cockroach Janata Party is actually come out of that anguish and that anger. So when the police tried to stop the Cockroach Janata Party procession to the parliament, and everybody saw on the videos, how police excesses were committed, pellet guns were used, and lathi charge was done, and it was very, very brutal. I felt very disturbed actually when I saw the videos. And ultimately, what happens? Accountability. Dharmendra Pradhan, Education Minister. In the normal circumstances, Lal Bahadur Shastri or somebody would have been there, he would have offered to resign. But he didn't. He didn't resign. It was under public pressure, whole lot of trauma, whole lot of pain. After that, he resigned. Now, on the police
resignation is he resigns, but after that, the kind of welcome and the kind of adulation which he gets is so surprising. I really don't know.
Absolutely. In fact, in his resignation letter, he says, I am resigning, not because I hold myself accountable, because I don't want anti-national forces to take advantage of it.
Yes.
It's ridiculous, I mean, he should not have stated that. And at the end of it, when he comes to the parliament, he's given a hero's welcome. And in his own state, Orissa today, there's a paper leak and there is agitation. So here, that is one. And the police excesses, where pellet guns are used, one person lost his eyesight, and there are still pellets in the bodies of some of these people, and lathis being used on women. I mean, these are all very, very distressing sights. And Home Minister is responsible. And nothing, no accountability. I mean, somebody should answer. Dharmendra Prasad should answer, Home Minister. And after all, who replaces Dharmendra Prasad, a minister who supports, people who are committed crime against women, who are given bail or something, and he supports them. I mean, this is something which is very disturbing. And here, there is no accountability, public accountability at all. And actually, E20, ethanol, there is an official report of Niti Aayog which says that the engine, material should be adapted and all that. In spite of that, they're pushing it. Now there is a whole lot of agitation. And Mr. Gadkari says, look, I'm not a part of this. After all, he's a part of the cabinet. He took decisions. There is an idea of collective responsibility in the cabinet. All ministers are accountable for all decisions. But still, there's no public accountability. So the entire thing, in my view, is that basically this NDA government, BJP, one thing, that worries me in a democracy is they won only, 2024 election, if you see the vote share, their vote share is only 36.5%. And they behave as though that there is a landslide majority and they don't have to answer anybody and they don't have to face press conferences in abroad. One press reporter asked the Prime Minister and he didn't reply, and he thinks that he directly connects with the people of India. So there is a general feeling that we are not accountable to the press, we are not accountable to the people of India. And so when that happens, all the institutions behave that. You see Election Commission of India. They think that they're not accountable to political parties, they're not accountable to people. I wrote several letters to Election Commission of India pointing out solid facts. Absolutely, there's no, I don't want any response, but there's no action at all. So this is something very worrisome. And this Chanda Chori thing in Parliament, which is going on, it is a symbolic thing in my view, where accountability across the board is missing, transparency across the board is missing. There's nothing transparent. And when
what do you think? How can the closure be brought to the Ram Temple issue? Despite you having written letter to the president hasn't. Have you got any response for this letter, sir, so far?
See, one positive thing about Ram Temple Trust is some people have gone to the Supreme Court. Now, Supreme Court said we want the SIT report to be expedited. We want to see. The very fact that Supreme Court has entered the picture shows that there is a judicial oversight. And now people cannot take it lightly and they have to investigate. And for example, if they don't investigate all the land deals,
no, but the Supreme Court, the very fact that Supreme Court is acknowledged, does it bring about a hope that the issue will be resolved? Because there are many cases, like look at the election petitions, the appointment of Chief Election Commissioner, how badly it has been handled by the Supreme Court. So just by acknowledging that, yes, we need to do something on the Ram Temple theft issue, does it bring hope that the issue will have a closure?
And in my view, there is hope because the court is looking at it. It is not disposed of. The very fact that there's an oversight, the very fact that somebody is looking at what I'm doing, the SIT members will take it very seriously. They cannot commit any mistakes. And tomorrow, if they don't investigate all the land deals, public will question that. And I'm sure Supreme Court will take cognizance of that. I think that is the checks and balances in our system. To some extent, I'm basically an optimist. And I hope that the Supreme Court's oversight will bring out all these things. And then ultimately, the Ayodhya Ram Temple Trust and the Construction Committee are answerable to the public. And not only the donors, but the public at large. See, after all, a Ram Temple constructed, the cost escalation, use of substandard, these are all very serious allegations. So I think that is the one which I feel something has happened. I'm happy. And if not a committee other than an SIT or appointed by the UP government, I would have liked an SIT with central investigating agencies directly, purview and in the purview of the Supreme Court. That would have been better. But this is probably a second best solution.
No, but what would you say to the attitude of how the India Alliance leaders enacted a skit inside Parliament on how the Ram Temple issue was happened, the theft. And then there were complaints, police complaints, FIR against Pappu Yadav. He was hurled with there was a knife attack on him. Then somebody threw a shoe at him. What does that go to show?
When the opposition finds no response from the government in the parliament, they are not allowed to talk, as we see the videos and all that. The only option that is left to the opposition is to come out and then enact all this for the public to see. And I'm very happy that many YouTube, channels and all that, they're showing it widely. So people see what is happening. And now, just now I was watching the TV and I saw in UP, in the name of Kavadiyas may not be there at all, some people on scooters came and beat up a van carrying children to school. And the glass panes are all broken. And, there are people who are going on a scooter with flags and all that, saffron flags and all that. And the DGP of the state says, No, we went there and the driver of the van ran away. He's not finding fault with the people who broke the glass panes and people who were dancing wildly in the name of Kavadiyas. We don't know Kavadiyas. I know Kavadiyas in Delhi. They're extremely, very simple, very religious minded, very quiet. Those were the days. But today, I don't know what the position is in North India. But this particular thing shows the police, should be accountable to this. There's such a thing kind of disturbs me. When school children, small children, they were looking helplessly sitting in the van and all the glass panes are broken. I mean, something, parents should really worry about it. We don't want Gundaism in this country in the name of religion or whatever it is. And people,
but what if the government remains opaque and the government remains elusive on the Ram Temple theft issue? What do you think could be the biggest worry for the BJP? Could they lose their Hindu vote bank?
I always, give the example of a pressure cooker. See, beyond a point, the pressure comes out. That's what happened in the shape of Cockroach Party. When there's anger building up, and the anger suddenly bursts. That's what happened in Jantar Mantar. And people all over the country. Now today, there's schools are protesting, other people are protesting, they've taken the cue from them, how to agitate. So that I think will happen. And no, in a democracy, one political party cannot stop this. And I think there's a warning to BJP, there's a warning to NDA allies. They should realize that. The only way, they can govern the country is through democratic means. There's no other way. If they think they can do that, they're totally mistaken. I don't think they'll be able to survive.
But the government always has these ham-handed ways of tackling the protesters, or maybe the electoral machinery also. So, like yesterday's election results of Datia and Bankipur, they were quite an outlier because their BJP lost big time. These elections came in the middle of the student movement and the unrest which we saw at Jantar Mantar. So do you think that now the government, will they be able to use their state machinery for appropriating elections? Because next year we have crucial polls. We have crucial polls in UP, Uttarakhand, Goa, Punjab, Gujarat.
I think government will be much more careful now because I think there is a demand for change everywhere. After all this, you'll see Bankipur is a seat actually vacated by the BJP president. And that's the bastion of the party. And they've lost it. And Madhya Pradesh is their government, but still they lost it. Of course, Gujarat, they won it. So these are all signals I think they should take very carefully. And then, see, you cannot, and when the Prime Minister, through his videos, appealed to the Cockroach Party people, what did he really convey? He said, you're wrong. Your culture is not correct. You don't fit into the society. But still, I forgive you. See, the NDA government actually created the neat mess. It is the NDA government which forgives. I create the mess. I forgive you. I mean, this attitude is something, in my view, it's not a very happy thing that I think NDA government should realize that you cannot adopt this kind of an approach all through. And by having, I think RSS is trying to reach out to Generation Z somewhere in Pune or someplace. But that's not the way. You have to youth's problems today are many. For example, NEET actually, whole lot of commercialization of education, privatization of education. Whereas it is the state, which is the government, should have been active in education and health sectors. But in India, we are trying to privatize. The moment you privatize, what happens is the prices, the fees go up. And today for a ordinary family, I've seen them, for a medical seat or something, they spend heavily on coaching and the centralized system. The competition is so stiff and there's tension, mental trauma. And after all that, there's a leakage. Then imagine the kind of distress. So that anger will always come out. So I think government, says purely conceptually, privatization of education, privatization of health, these are wrong directions. And the more they do it, the more they create a divide between the poor and the rich. And the more they also ruin education and health sectors. During COVID, I've seen hospitals, private hospitals, asking them to pay 3 lakhs. And I got a video actually, asking them to collect 3 lakhs for one case, for one particular vaccine. And when these people gave 3 lakhs, they gave a receipt only for 50,000. That means they're evading taxes. And this is private sector, some of the private hospitals. So in my view, this fundamental things like privatization as the only means as a means of reform, which is not correct. In certain sectors, the government should be active. Directive principles of the Constitution. And that's what exactly directive principles say.
Absolutely.
And we have been questioning some of these privatization exercises. 2 privatization exercises have failed, the NDA governments. One is that Central Electronics Limited, they finalized, they selected the bidder, and finally they found that bidder, only two bidders were there. Both of them were owned by one bidder, and it was all stage managed. So we pointed this out. I went to Lokayukta with a case, and finally they aborted that. And Pawan Hans privatization, it ended in a flop.
Right.
So the government should know that some of their policies, I think that broad policy direction should change. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
This kind of anger, this kind of anguish is bound to take place.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you so much, Mr. Sarma, for joining on HW News. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.